Official Jets podcast is presented by WynnBET. Betting is a team sport. Bet together at WynnBET. Eric Allen here at One Jets Drive with my longtime partner, the Mad Backer, Bart Scott has arrived.
We got a sponsor?
Yeah, WynnBET. Hey, what do you think about the background, the black background?
That's dark. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you wear the black uniforms, that means we mean business. So that means this podcast means business. That means this Jet season, we mean business. And listen, I hope we can harness some of that inner prime time. Because I feel like
here we go.
I feel like the Jets this season is like Colorado, right? They want to hate you, right? And they don't believe, right?
Yeah.
But Prime made the guys believe, and I hope, Monday Night Football, I hope Aaron silence all the haters and the doubters. I've never seen a team, maybe since the second year of Rex, people hate for no reason. I've never seen people always go glass half empty instead of glass half full since we were like the hated loudmouths, right? And this is the crazy part, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat, and you understand, right? Saleh hasn't said anything. Aaron Rodgers has been the perfect model citizen, yet they hate anyway. Why? Right? Everybody's so optimistic about the Detroit Lions, right? You talk about a team that finished strong. The Jets were 7-9. Usually, people are happy, like, oh man, this team is young, they're exciting.
Right.
But when you bring in a 4-time MVP, so comes the hate. For no reason. No reason. People can't even explain it. And it's not even the media. It's other general managers. It's other guys that, you can't build a team like this. And so the correlation between Prime only having 10 players left on his roster from the year before, you can't build a team like this. They act like the Jets haven't built the team the right way.
Right.
They have built the team the way you want to build a team, through the draft, and made themselves attractive enough to be able to attract Alan Lazard, because you're able to attract Nathaniel Hackett, who could have sat on his ass, quite frankly, and collected a check, right? And it brings over everybody else. So they act like the Jets just went out and tried to be like the 19 or the 2000, I don't know what year that was, Washington Redskins team that went out and just brought all these players in and went and bought and spent money. No, they strategically built this team the right way, and they attracted a 4-time MVP, and everybody's mad. What have the Jets said? They haven't boasted. They haven't said anything. Everybody laughed when the brass went out to California and did all this stuff. It's funny, like how everybody was like, oh, man, it'd be great if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, right? Remember that when the season ended? Like, he should go to the Jets. He should go to the Jets. Well, guess what? He came to the Jets, and everybody now are upset. I feel like they're Colorado, and I feel like they're the Brooklyn Nets. Remember how everybody loved the Brooklyn Nets with LeVert and Jared Allen? They're like, man, this team plays
the little
hard.
legend they could.
Right. And as soon as they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they cheating. I hate them.
Right.
How's that hating? Nobody. Listen, I've talked to people on my radio show.
This guy's ready to roll today. Subscribe, rate, and review. It's the Official Jets podcast.
I got a lot to say.
This guy is going to be here throughout the 2023 season, and we've been doing this together since 2009. 2009 is when we started doing content.
Is it time for us to get Lifetime Achievement Awards?
I don't know.
Like, we should get the world's smallest trophy for our consistency.
We used to call it Jets Radio back in the day.
Oh, man.
I ran after you at SUNY Cortland, asking you, begging you to come on Jets content.
Look how far we come. We got our own studio now, and we got big-time sponsors, right? Who's going to give us handsome endorsement deals, coming soon?
All right, so you just brought up a bunch of fascinating points. Mm-hmm. So why are the Jets so polarizing? Is it because they were under the bright lights of Hard Knocks this summer? Is it because Aaron Rodgers joined the Jets? Is it because they have a number of young, talented players who are not polarizing at all? What is the deal? What is it? The brand? Is it what's happened in the past? Is it because Bart Scott said the Patriots couldn't stop a nosebleed back in 2010? What is it?
Well, when you look at it, right, and you look at where the Jets are, and you're saying, okay, This is a team that got one of the most polarizing players, right? And not only has he come and been a model citizen, he did everything this year that he didn't do last year in Green Bay. So now the questions were, will he come and stay for OTAs? Would he mentor and come together with the young players? Would he be able to be one of the guys? And not only that, I mean, he went on a dating circuit no other, right? He's been everywhere. Like you see him yesterday at the U.S. Open, right? Or what is it in?
He's got an itinerary like you. Yeah,
Right.
He was at the U.S.
Right,
Open.
the U.S. Open. Right?
And
I
then
just forgot what it was.
he went to Taylor Swift. He took Sauce Gardner to the Knicks playoff game. I mean, he's
so people listen.
They all went to MJ together?
This is the thing, right? When you think about the New York Jets, like they've been the butt of everybody's jokes for decades, and much like when people are getting bullied, other people just join in because they don't want to be made fun of, right? So, like, it's something cool, right? You see it with the Mets in this town as well, right? It's like because they've been one thing for such a long time, people think that they can't change their stripes. Like, well, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yep. They used to be the Creamsicles. You look at the Saints. They used to be the Aints. You talk about a world in which the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl. Right, so people don't understand. It's always a point in history where things change, and you talk about Woody Johnson and Chris bringing in Saleh, bringing in Joe Douglas. All of a sudden, ain't nothing funny anymore. All of a sudden, there's long-term plans. You're thinking about the present. You're thinking about the future, right? And the plan is working out. In the development, they the first thing they had to do was come in and strip it down. Mm-hmm. They stripped it down over ugly, lean years. But now, whether Aaron Rodgers was here or not, you still were in position to attract a car, right? You still probably could have attracted a Garoppolo. Why? Because people see and understand that the narrative is changing. But what happens is the people on the outside, they're used and accustomed to the Jets being a certain way for the last 10 years, since 2010, right? And so it's low-hanging fruit. But once again, I can't wait for these guys to prove everybody wrong, to silence the doubters, and then say, now what do you say? Now what do you think? Right? Because I'm tired of the narrative, right?
Yep.
Oh, would he come? Well, they're going to get – listen, everybody decided to take a negative perspective. That's just one perspective. And that's because they're haters. And they hate because they understand that New York is one of the best cities, if not the best city in the world. Right? And they know that they really can't say anything about the other team around town because they got the hardware. Right? But, if the Jets add another title there, they'll have to shut their mouths. And even if Aaron Rodgers comes here for 2 years and leaves, right, the foundation is set to still be a successful competitive team with or without Aaron Rodgers. If you look at the development, you see guys ready to take the next step. You see guys like Jermaine Johnson, the light turning on. You understand that, Joe Douglas, I think, learned a lot from Ozzie Newsome. He learned a lot from, Roseman?
Yeah, Howie Roseman.
Howie Roseman, yep. Right? And you look at how he has this set up. He has replacements in place. And everybody wanted to criticize the picks that he's made. And nobody bats 1,000%, but everybody wants to point out the ones that he didn't hit on. And to me, one of the greatest comeback stories, and everybody talks about who's going to be comeback player of the year, I would love to see Mekhi Becton become comeback player of the year, right? And it's amazing how the narrative can change, and from game to game, but from month to month. Right, and sometimes it takes – you talk about the value of Aaron Rodgers, not just about what he does on the field, but it's him being able to publicly lift Mekhi Becton up. You don't think Mekhi heard that? You don't think Mekhi believed that? Sometimes people don't understand that athletes sometimes are fragile. And a lot of athletes, even though they have this bravado, like they're super confident, they're not. A lot of times, there's a lot of insecurity.
People don't expect you guys to be human beings,
right? I mean, it's a lot of athletes have huge insecurities, right? You don't know what it was like growing up being as big as Mekhi was, right? Standing out, right? You see it now when it's popular for him to be a big guy, 300 pounds. It's like, oh wow, how do you think that was when he was 15? Yeah. When he couldn't find shoes to fit, when he couldn't find clothes to fit, where he had to wear the same thing because clothes was – you don't know what his life was and what insecurities that he have embedded.
And then it's also got to mess with your mind if you have 2 consecutive years that are ended because
– And you start to hear the disappointment, the bust. He has to change. Best case scenario, Mekhi Becton comes here and he balls out and he plays and he stays healthy. and the Jets decide to buy in and make him part of this future of this core. And then Dwayne Brown moves on and he moves to left tackle.
So you just talked about the talent that is here on the roster.
Yes.
I'd make the argument that you have at least 10 blue chip players right now. Elijah Vera Tucker, Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and then you flip it on the other side of the ball. You got Quinnen Williams, C.J. Mosley, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, special teams. You got Justin Hardy. Okay, you talked about Jermaine Johnson.
Well, guys who are poised to graduate from being
right. And I'm not.
Who can listen? I think.
And then you got the Hall of Fame quarterback, who's a blue chip player still.
I believe that a guy like Jermaine Johnson could graduate this year. And listen, like I said, I played with Terrell Suggs, I played with Peter Broware, I played with Adelius Thomas, and it's a huge difference from the first year to the second year. And I did this little poll on my radio show. And I was like, okay, who do you think is going to have the bigger impact this year? Kayvon Thibodeau or Jermaine Johnson? And I think Jermaine Johnson is poised to be a superstar.
Wow.
This year, right? And I think he's poised to take the next step. And if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl, I expect him to be right there poised for the next year to be expected to be a guy that's going to be one of the best pass rushers in this game. And, I think he's set up to be able to, and like I said, when I go back to the Ozzie Newsome and the Howie Roseman, is you want to have guys, people are like, well, they already got pass rushers. Why didn't they move up to get a tackle, or why didn't they move up to get a guard or a high-end player off the offensive line? You have to understand that in football, it's the redistribution of funds. Everybody can't stay. And sometimes people have to graduate. But you want them to graduate a year later or a year early than too late, right? So you talk about, like, look how he has it set up. Why would you go get McDonald? Well, you understand that, Lawson has been great, and it was tremendous what he did, taking a pay cut. That speaks to the culture. That speaks to him wanting to buy in.
It speaks to him as a person.
Right, him as a person, but also the environment in which the Jets have cultivated, in which somebody would say, you know what, I'd rather take less to stay here than to be released and go sign somewhere else because I believe in what they're building. But that also sets you up, understanding that it's about the redistribution. Next year, see, Saleh worries about the now. Joe Douglas worries about the now and the future. And the future is that you can't, especially the hardest positions to pay are defensive end, and you talk about corner, you talk about left tackle, right? Those are the money positions that eats up a lot of the money.
And then receivers really jumping up there nowadays.
Right.
Too.
So look at what Saleh had mean and what Joe has to prepare for. He has to prepare for the fact that you're going to have to make Sauce the highest paid corner in the league if he continues on this trajectory. Also, you have to prepare for the fact that you have to make Garrett Wilson if he continues on it, and if A. Rizzo does what he does, he could. I would say
he's going to put up huge numbers.
Yeah,
we
talk about war, right? And you talk about let's talk about war in football terms. Like, what added value does Aaron Rodgers add to a guy like Garrett Wilson? So you look at that. If he has 1,100 yards with a carousel of quarterbacks, what does that mean if Aaron Rodgers there? So I would say that's worth 400 to 500 more yards.
I totally agree.
So if that puts him at 1,600 yards, that puts him up there with the elite. That puts him there with Tyreek Hill. That puts him here with Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? Who knows if out there if Jimmy G can even stay healthy enough. So he's going to be in position.
Yeah, by the end of the year, he's a top 5 receiver.
My point.
Yeah.
So the fact that you already have the replacements in place for redistribution. You already have Lawson's replacement. You already have Dwayne's replacement. If Becton can stay healthy and prove what he needs to prove, he can slide back over and go to the position that he covets and that he wants to play, right? And so, like, you look at Vera Tucker, that has to be addressed, right? And I feel like because of what he did and sacrifice, the world don't know. In my opinion, Vera Tucker is a top 5 offensive lineman. He should be looked at as the same as not Linderbaum, the guy in Atlanta, who's the highest paid guard right now. He should be looked upon as Zach Martin. He should be looked upon as Quentin Nelson. He should be looked upon as one of the elite guards. But because he got injured and because he hasn't been able to stay in the same position, people don't realize how special he is.
Isn't it interesting now that early on in the careers we're thinking that it was going to be Farrah Tucker left guard, Becton left tackle. Now it sets up in 23. Farrah Tucker right guard.
But who knows, right? It's always musical chairs
Right.
because just next year it could be them to their original spots. And we saw what that looked like with a short sample size his first year. I mean, because I feel like he's more comfortable on the left, but he's so talented, so versatile. Like he's not only the swing guard, but he's the emergency tackle, I believe. You know what I mean? Because he performed at a high level there. So all in all, like this team is set up to be successful with or without Aaron Rodgers in the future. Does it make it more difficult if you don't have a Hall of Famer? But I think the Jets are making all the right moves, and the time is now to capitalize. These windows open and close, and this window for the Jets have been closed for a long time. But I feel like it's opening because of they built it the right way. They didn't go out and buy a bunch of free agents and salary cap hell. Right. They're in position, right? And unfortunately,
What do you make of them being $20 million under the salary cap and that flexibility? And also, what was your reaction as a guy who's played, puts his body on the line? And Rodgers, listen, he's a rich man, but he could sit there and say, "I'm going to take every cent."
Yeah.
And he restructured a team-friendly deal.
Well, when you think about Aaron, I think he's at the point of his career, and he came here. You're like, well, why would you come here? Well, he came here because he saw something in his team, and he saw an opportunity for him to do things. It's more ways to skin his cat, right? So the ways to win championships, young quarterback before his deal, win a championship, or established quarterback with what we've seen. We've seen Peyton Manning do it. We saw Matthew Stafford do it, and we saw Tom Brady do it. And I think that, the model in which the Jets are taking is the one where you think about – because remember, when Peyton Manning went to Denver, nobody expected him to go to Denver. They thought he was going to Tennessee.
Yes.
And you look at Denver tried to do the same thing last year, but Russell Wilson wasn't up to the task, right? So you look at how he saw an opportunity for him to be able to have input in buying some of the groceries and being able to bring some of the players over that he trusts and that he has a comfortability with, and also coming and not for him. I think he's ahead of Tom Brady. In front of Tom Brady, and he's in front of Peyton Manning because he's coming over. He doesn't have to integrate his system.
You mean when they got to their new places?
When they got to their new places.
When they arrived in Tampa, when they arrived.
Yeah, right. He doesn't have to integrate his system and his beliefs with the coordinator because they're the same.
Yeah.
Where when you think about, remember what it was with Peyton Manning and how him and Kubiak and they didn't mesh and they had to figure it out. But they still went to the Super Bowl the first year, lost to Seattle, and came back and won it the next year. You look at Tom Brady. They were 10-6. They were struggling. It took the bye for him and Bruce Aaron to get on the same page. I expect the Jets to hit the ground running and understand that they have a difficult schedule. But listen, you can't avoid these teams. It's good to play these teams now, in my opinion, because now when you get to see them the second time, you know how you match up and you'll be able to make adjustments. So I'm excited, and the fact that they did that allows them to do. And listen, the Jets are modernizing their strategy because not only do you have the money, and Corey Davis decided to hang it up, and that's a personal decision for everybody. But it's glass half full. Looking at the bright side, it opened up a tremendous salary cap space as well. So you look at that, and what's been going on for these past years?
I think it's shocking that this roster is so deep and talented that you're entering the season and you got $20 million.
You're right, and it's going to get deeper. That's the thing. So this is the thing. You can go and talk to a guy like Makai right now. I mean, you can go talk to a guy like Bear Tucker right now. Get that out the way. Front load that. Let it replenish and still be in great salary cap space.
Yeah.
And then you still have money in powder dry. The NFL has become like baseball. If you feel like you're close, you go and you make it undeniable, right? You look at what Odell Beckham going to the Rams.
Yep.
You look at last year, bringing in Ndamukong Suh, bringing in was it Robert Quinn? No. that Philly brought in.
No, it's Sue, and then who was the other defensive tackle? It was another defensive lineman.
Yeah, they used to play for Minnesota for a long time. Joseph, was it Linval Joseph?
I don't think that Linville ended up there. I
I
know what you're talking
It doesn't
about.
matter the names. And it's the pass rusher from Chicago. You look at Baltimore bringing over Raekwon Smith.
Yes.
So, like, now the Jets are in position that if those opportunities present themselves and they're close or if somebody goes down, they can make a trade. Because you're all in. 2 years, chips in the middle of the table. The Jets are in tremendous financial position.
So we got to get to a few things very quickly.
Okay.
How happy are you that the Jets went out and got a big fat guy next to Quinnen Williams in Al Woods?
Well, I was pushing for fat boys. You know what I mean?
And I'm not taking a shot at him. I'm just saying more of that.
What do you think? Big boned it.
That big
It's all
dude
good.
lined up a space eater.
And
for you, that was the fat guy.
And a guy that plays at a tremendous level. Like, listen, what if and they'll never do it because I think they see the Jets as competition. But what if they say, hey man, Chris Jones, whatever. You never know what shakes loose, right? You never know what happens, right? You got guys on expiring deals. So like you can get guys on expiring deals that want to come in and just win a championship. You have teams that's going to sell off. And listen, I can play general manager. I'm not saying this is anything that you're just doing. I'm just speculating. I look at a position and you ask yourself, who's potentially going to be sellers?
You're already looking ahead of the trade deadline,
right? So because I want to explain to people how important the $20 million is, right? Who are going to be sellers potentially? Who is in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes? So you talk about Tampa because they don't have the answer at quarterback, so they would love to stink and get the number 1 pick. You look at, in my opinion, and listen, I'm usually right. People say I'm crazy. I'm no hot takey here. Look at a team like Arizona, who if they get Caleb Williams, they can release in a year, they can release Kyler Murray and get cheap and potentially get an upgrade at the quarterback position, right? Because they're starting over, new coach. So look at a team like that, right? And then I look at a team like you ask yourself, who else can be a team that potentially could be like bottom of the NFL, right? And I'm trying to think, I'm drawing some blanks, but definitely those two teams right there. So a guy like Mike Evans, who may or may not, he's not going to get a new deal.
Well, just looking at the reports, it seems like they have a deadline coming up.
Could you imagine adding Mike Evans to this roster with A. Rizzle? You know what I'm saying? Knowing that you got the money to get him a 2-year deal, right? Could you think about, okay, yeah, we got some tight ends in this division. Kelsey, we got to deal with Andrews, and you say, you know what, Arizona, give us Budda Baker.
Yeah.
Did you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see
So
what you're saying.
so what I'm saying is Joe Douglas is playing chess, not checkers.
Yeah, he's going to have the flexibility.
It's going to be players.
And there are going to be teams looking to deal who have their eyes set on the future. Like you talked about, the Jets were in a different position a couple of years ago, and they were the sellers. But now potentially we could see them being the buyers once again.
Jets fans, we're in our final push and the clock is ticking. WynnBET is giving you a golden opportunity to win VIP prizes for the 2023 season. The WynnBET Green Room is the most exclusive space at the stadium with all-inclusive food and beverage, lower-level seats, and appearances by Jets legends and celebrities. New Jersey customers, all you need to do is wager at least $100 on WynnBET Sportsbook or Casino. For New York customers, all you need to do is wager at least $100 on WynnBET's Sportsbook. The best part? You get an entry for every $100 you wager.
Tony Adams, undrafted free agent out of Illinois, takes over the starting position next to Jordan Whitehead. What do you think about his opportunity here in his second professional year?
Like you said, he played. Listen, to be able to have an opportunity to be on a defense that's ranked like this, and to be able to have brand names around you, and whether people remember or want to recognize, Whitehead was one of the free agents that took a chance on this organization when people would say, like, this team isn't going to win. And what a difference a year makes, right?
Yeah.
First year, tough sledding, but I think they overachieved and surprised a lot of people. The record it was, and now they didn't finish strong, but they were in it all the way to the end. November could have snuck in 2 wins, beat the Lions, beat a couple teams, could have had an opportunity to sneak in. But when he decided to sign here, people looked at it like, why would he sign there? And, I love the fact that C.J. Mosley, who has endured a lot, and a guy like Quinnen has endured a lot, gets an opportunity to put their talents on a big stage, right, and be able to say, okay, I play in meaningful games. People can really see the quality player that he is and the quality leader that those guys are, right? He's kind of elder statesman, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that, Adams gets to play and be a part of that, right? And it's an opportunity. I can remember a guy like Landry who played here, DeJuan, played here, and he was the only rookie that started for us when I was a member of the Baltimore Ravens, and it was Ed Reed, Samari Rowe, Chris McAllister, myself, Ray Lewis, Haloti Nada, Adelius Thomas, Terrell Suggs, and they're like, who the hell is this guy, right? But he held his own, and that's what Tony's going to have to do. He's going to have to be reliable and understand that he wasn't given this opportunity; he earned it. And you have to get that inferiority complex out of your mind and say, why not introduce myself to the NFL?
I think he's a confident cat. And the other thing
Quite
is
confident.
Those cornerbacks, it's got to be quite enticing if you are a safety that, hey, I'm lining up. Sauce is out here, DJ's out here, and Michael Carter II's out here as well.
Michael Carter II is the most underrated player on this team. I mean, to play his position, that slot corner, he plays at such a high level that's why I love the fact that you have these primetime games, because I think that he can become a household name and he can find his way in the Pro Bowl as well. He may be a guy that with that $20 million, you better get him now before we be talking and sitting in here like Fat Joe. Today's price is not yesterday's price. You know what I'm saying? That's a guy sneaky that you just want to lock up, because it's hard to find guys that can play where receivers have two-way goals and they sitting and going in motion. You know what I mean? So all in all, you know what I mean? This is a happy podcast, right? This is the first one. This is the first installment.
Hey, how helpful is it offensively to add Delvin to the equation as Brees works his way back? They've continued to say throughout the summer that he looks tremendous.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have to, right? It's different guys jumping on your back. It's different once, you start getting fatigue, right? And, we would think and hope that everybody could be Adrian Peterson, but that guy's one of one. And, I think you want to play the long game with Brees Hall, and you don't want to have because usually what happens if you have a ACL, then you worry about the opposite Achilles, right, if you rush back too soon. So you want him to continue to prehab and understand that it's still a process. But the fact that not only does he have a guy like Dalvin Cook that can carry some of the load, he also has a guy that has played at such a high level that he can learn something from as well. And he can add some stuff to his game from a guy like Dalvin and be able to be a 1-2 punch to stay rested, so that when you get into those second halves in the second half of the season, you guys are so much fresher. Kind of like I take it back to when Thomas Jones was running through everybody, but then he ran out of steam, and Sean Green was right there to take the baton like, thank you, big fella. You got us here.
Soften everybody
Hand it
up.
off. I got you, right? And like, hey, I got you. And he was jacked up on Mountain Dew. But Brees gets to do it as a second-year guy, not a first-year guy, right? So that means that he understands how to take care of his body. He understands the demands on a long season. So understand, you want Brees peaking and ready to go with that speed when everybody's slowing down and when everybody's running. See, because I think the difference in his speed and his explosion in the second half when everybody else is beaten up, and also when you think that the surfaces slow down, it's just going to accentuate his speed so much more when he gets in the second half when guys are tired, beat up, and you're running in inclement weather. I think he becomes that guy that's like, this guy's playing on a different speed level, because
Aaron compared him to Amon Green, a guy I used to play with in Green Bay.
I love Amon Green. Amon Green got the widow peak. Me and Amon Green had a lot of fun with each other. He's a huge gamer, and I used to me and him used to host Madden tournaments together and stuff like that. But Amon Green never had the speed that Brees had.
And Brees is so thick too with the speed.
So Amon was thick, but I would compare Brees as an opponent and as somebody that I've seen before. I would compare him to Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson, like, once he get that seam, it ain't nothing you can do.
Yes.
Like, objects will appear further in the rear view. Like once he hits that,
house call.
And those little weak arm tackles and I'm engaged, but let me put my arm out, he gonna kick right through that. Right? So like I would say, remember Chris Johnson was probably about 6'1", right, as well, right? Amon is a lot shorter. And you think of, or I would say like a young Fournette.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like
but
not Fournette. No, our guy that was here from Chicago.
Forte,
yeah.
But Forte with a lot more gas as far as speed. Nothing against Matt Forte.
Chicago Forte had a little bit more juice.
Yeah,
coming from Tulane.
But this guy.
That's what I'm saying.
Brees's speed.
Or also Jamal Charles. He gave me a lot of Jamal Charles vibes.
All right, so what's the ball distribution going to look early for the Jets? You got the big guy that's outside. You got 17. You mentioned Lazard and Cobb. Obviously, those guys have played with Aaron before. Brees coming back from injury. Dalvin in the backfield. He hasn't practiced a lot yet. I know you can get him as much as up to speed as possible before week 1, but just early on, how do you think it will look?
He got to be able to get a feel because you got to get a feel for your linemen and the way guys block and how to read their blocks and how their tendencies and stuff like that. So, I mean, I expect the Jets to kind of pass the run, you know what I mean, early on, and I expect Aaron to use the short pass game as
tight ends and backs?
Yeah, and it's as the extension of the run. You know what I mean? Like a lot of flat routes and checkouts and stuff like that and taking shots. And then, you got to run I think they're going to have to run to close games out. And I think as the season goes on, I think that narrative starts to change probably by like week 3. I think then the running backs be ready to go because neither one of them really had a preseason. So it's about getting their timing down and their feel of the offensive line because, like I say all the time, the best running backs, which these are great running backs, you have to have patience to the hole and acceleration through the hole. And so I think that's what they're going to have to do, and that's about timing, right? Because you have to see it and wait for it to open up. But you have to know certain guys do things the same way but different, right? The objective is to move your guy, to give your running back a butt to be able to cut off of and get movement. That's going to take a while, right? And it's going to take a while for them to figure out what's the best type of runs against the best type of fronts. The pass game is easy because Aaron is going to be able to figure things out, see what guys are doing. It's funny, right? When you think about, when Hard Knocks in the
One Jet Drive.
Yeah, One Jet Drive as well, right? And you think about, Aaron, like, you're not coming back up, right? You can't fool him with that type of stuff. So, like, he's seen it all. I mean, he's going against some of the most complex defenses, including, the Jets defense that was pretty complex that he had to figure out who's coming, and we had guys that were smart and intelligent that knew how to disguise. So the fact that
you guys played well that one day, I think it was 9-0 or something.
Yeah. I think Steve Williford thought he could pick up 4th and 19 and realize that 18 ain't 19. But anyway, that's a different story for a different time.
He always crushed it in the weight room.
But the fact, he's still crushing it, right? So the fact that you can, Aaron's going to be able to decipher, and so like whatever you give him, he's going to take. Right? So if you want to say, okay, well, they got Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, let's stop the run, he's going to pick you apart with the one-on-ones, right? And if you decide to say, okay, well, we're going to play heavy coverage, he has no problem checking the draws and screens. And what I love is, and what I've always appreciated about Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers in particular, but Green Bay was always great at the screen game, whether it's the legal pick plays on the goal line, the quick screens on the goal line, or the running back screens on the goal line, right? I expect the screen game to be a big part of especially the run game and extension of it.
Aaron, the best touchdown interception ratio in NFL history, protects the football. The other thing is, if you look back at those stats when Hackett was there with him in Green Bay, in 2020, I think their red zone efficiency was 80% touchdowns inside the red zone.
Yeah, because it's like he's going to get the motion. He's going to get the information. You can try and hide it all you want, but once he motions or goes to empty, comes back from empty, you got to show your cards. And he's going to find somebody that's a mismatch, and he's going to find a weak link, and he's going to keep attacking him over and over again, whether it's quick screens, whether it's everybody thinks it's a run, but him and the receiver, the nonverbal communication. That's why spending all this intimate time was so vital and so important, on the field and off the field.
All right, so quick thoughts about next Monday night. Now, this podcast is going to go out. Here's another plug for you. Bart is going to be on Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh. That airs Sunday mornings. Also on NewYorkJets.com and YouTube.
I'm everywhere, baby. I'm living in your TV.
You are. With that being said, Bill's coming to town. What do you think about, before we get to the matchup, just the long week and then the night game? You are the final game of that weekend, and that anticipation building, and a big divisional opponent coming to town, and Aaron Rodgers making his debut, and it's the 22nd anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be super emotional. A lot of these guys don't understand the gravity of it because they weren't around, and I think a lot of these guys were so young that they didn't watch it live, right? I believe I was in college, right? So that means that these guys were not even – someone probably wasn't even born, or well, they were born, right? 9/11, yeah. But they
around
some
that.
of them,
a lot of some of these dudes are like 21, 22
right,
years old.
So imagine the fact that a lot of them didn't really even understand what had happened. So
it's probably for the crowd.
For the crowd,
yes.
I think they're going to feel the energy for the crowd. Like, oh, man, like this is big. And I think they're going to understand because they're here and they're going to be hearing things leading up in the Sunday before where they read the names and all that stuff. I think they're going to start to understand this is big. And I think it's going to be able to affect the Bills as well because even though it's still New York, right? So I think they're going to feel it as well and understand that they're running to a place that's electric. That's going to be more electric than it's ever than what they're used to, accustomed. Like, man, this is crazy. It's Monday night. It's going to be crazy.
Do you think it's going to rival Sunday night, 9/11 against the Cowboys?
I think it will.
10-year anniversary.
I think it will. I absolutely think it will because the expectations of both teams are much higher. I know they say the Cowboys are supposed to do something every year, but come on, man. Like, nobody believed that back then. People had believed us because we had showed it the year before.
Yes.
Right? So I think the anticipation about us, but I think these are both teams that people believe if they represent the AFC in the Super Bowl wouldn't be surprised. So I think this is heightened because it's a divisional opponent, which you talk about divisional opponents, they know each other more. You talk about when we played the Cowboys, it was America's team or supposedly America's team, but it wasn't a divisional opponent, right? So I think it's a lot different in that respect where now you talk about the hatred, the fan base, and how many Bills fans have, act like they, use their cousin's address and paid money to try and sneak a ticket, right, to get in. You talk about the hype, the media, everything. I think it can rival that. I think it should exceed it because of the quarterback that's on both sides. These are the guys where you say, hey, if either one of these guys have the ball with the game on the line, get your popcorn ready.
Do you expect a close game?
I don't think it has to be because I think when I look at the Bills on the Bills side, they have a lot of unknowns. I think the Jets have a lot of knowns, right? This will be the first time without Frazier. They haven't looked well in the preseason. They haven't figured out the run game. So if they become one-dimensional, you're talking about, in my opinion, if not the best cornerback duel in the game, clearly, exactly, I think, top 5. Mm-hmm. And now you talk about this defensive line that's been hunting. And people say, well, the Jets didn't really address, a superstar or a great guy opposite Quentin Williams. But guess what? They don't run the ball. So now you're telling me you're going to become a team that's going to drop back with all those dogs on that front line, rotating in, trying to hunt down Josh Allen. And then if those first and second windows aren't open, you're going to give that defensive line an opportunity to continue to hunt. And I think you talk about
this defense has had a lot of success against Allen.
I know. And now they've gotten deeper, right? And now you on the other side, now you put pressure on the Bills because you have the ability to score like you've never been able to score. Right. The expectations is that you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to put up points. So now that's more pressure for them to become one-dimensional, trying to keep pace. So how do you keep pace if you don't really attempt to run the ball, and now you're going to make your offensive lineman continue to pass set against guys that are coming in waves. Remember, the offensive line is going to take every play. The Jets' defensive line, you got guys like Huff is the closer. Like he the guy. He's like Mariano Rivera. He comes in like 2-minute drill in the second quarter. Might be his fifth snap in the second quarter.
Your NASCAR packages. Right. You have so many options.
And then remember, it's the first time that you're not in football shape, in game shape until like game 3, because it's the first time that you're going to be going as hard as you can for the however many snaps you have to take. Where the Jets are going to be able to throw pass rushers out that for them, like, okay, right now I only can give you 20 great snaps. Well, that's fine because I need to get other people great snaps anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like where those offensive line, like, yo, they keep coming. Like I'm coming up. This dude's running off the sideline, after 4 plays, and I've been chasing this other dude around all day. He running around. You know how much energy you have if you know all you got to do is do 2 pass rushes and sprint to the sideline? And people look like, yo, this dude been drinking Gatorade for 3 minutes. I've been, chasing people around. It wears you down.
It's crazy.
And it may be hot. It might not be hot.
All right, so this is something that we're going to focus on a television show. It's going to be interesting to see if the Bills, they say that they're going to be more committed to the run. Let's see what happens.
If they fall behind.
And what the counter is with them playing more, maybe 12 personnel because they got Dawson Knox and then they drafted Kincaid. And then I'm going to really jump into –
let's see if Kincaid can pass block.
Because
if you – let me tell you something. If you want to see a sack highlight package, it's going to feature tight ends against defensive ends. So just because Kincaid is there don't mean that he damn sure – I guarantee you every defensive end that the Jets have will much rather go against him than go against their tackles. So good luck.
And then we're going to dive into this as well, is that no Tremaine Edmonds. Matt Milano, very good player, but who's going to fill that void? And the Jets runners can not only get it done on the ground, those guys are effective pass catchers.
Yes.
So, and you're talking about Rodgers in the short passing game, and then these tight ends complement each other, so it's going to be fun. Season prediction for the Jets. Where do you think they end up as far as division is concerned? How many wins you got for this team?
I got them with 13.
That wins the AFC East. Is that a top 2 seed in the AFC, you think?
Yeah, because I think when you look at the AFC North, they're going to feed on each other, right? I think they're going to feed on each other. And listen, this division is going to be highly competitive. But I think all things considered, right, I think the Jets, people talk about, okay, the Jets' Achilles heel. Everybody is flawed in the AFC, whether you want to talk about the Ravens and their lack of cornerbacks. You want to talk about, Joe Burrow, and you talk about the fact that they don't have Von Bell and Jesse Bates anymore. They got young safeties, and that was a big part of their game. Sure. You can go back to Tua's health. You can go to the lack of run game. I think
and no Jalen Ramsey early in the season anyway.
I believe that the Jets are better equipped. If I got to have a flaw and a weakness, that you have a lack of depth at the offensive line, I'd much rather have a Hall of Fame quarterback, because history proves that those guys can overcome, because their quick decision making, because their ability to think the game can overcome maybe a lack of great offensive play. Not saying that the Jets won't have that, because I believe if they're healthy, I think they have a deep, you talk about their front five. If Becton's Becton, people always talk stuff about Dwayne Brown. Oh, he's old. But once again, like I talk about the Jet hate, I've never heard anybody criticize the age of Andre Whitworth, who played till he's 41. And if you look at the resume, and that's all you can do, compare apples to apples. If you look at the resume, Dwayne Brown and his 5 Pro Bowls and All Pros was greater than Whitworth. But they hate on his age because he's playing for the Jets.
How about that?
Keep it real. All I ask the haters to do is be consistent in your arguments. So if you have a guy that's like Whitworth that played well with 2 torn rotator cuffs, how you expect him to play this year with 2 operational rotator cuffs, and you have Becton, who's playing at the level he has, and you talk about it.
And then you got depth at the tackle position.
But-
So if somebody, I'm just saying, if somebody goes down, you do have Billy Turner.
But
You do have Max Mitchell.
make it make sense.
Yep.
Becton his rookie year was just as good as Tristan Wirfs, just as good. It was better than Andre Thomas. And so if he's healthy and being able to do what he does, you have two let's just say he's a above average right tackle. Dwayne Brown and his resume suggests that he's Whitworth. I just told you Vera Tucker, in my opinion, is a top 5 offensive guard, and Langston Thomas is a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
What the hell are we talking about?
And then you got Wes Schweitzer.
But I'm saying
there,
is- what
and
I'm
you
saying
got
is-
Joe Tippmann, who's taking the second round, who's not even starting.
What I'm saying is make it make sense, people. Like I understand that you may say they don't have depth and everybody has to stay healthy, but let's just go with the starting 5, and let's talk about who they are,
Right.
and let's keep it consistent. So listen,
Top 3 roster in football, correct?
of course, and it's only going to get better because we got money.
So Bart Scott, put it down, 13-4, AFC East champs, maybe even the top seed in the AFC. 13's got to be right in the mix right there.
13's right there. I don't think nobody wins 14, so it's going to come with tiebreakers.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Subscribe.
no Chris Jones.
Subscribe,
that may not be
rate,
tied.
review, like us on YouTube. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, after the Jets and the Bills play and before the Jets go to Jerry World, the green and white against the Cowboys in week 2.
Jerry, you ain't scary.